There once was a traveler who carried a mountain on their back. Not a real mountain, you understand, but something heavier still. The weight of every mistake they'd ever made, every dream deferred, every moment they told themselves they weren't enough. For years, this traveler walked bent forward, eyes fixed on the ground 3 feet ahead. They'd grown so accustomed to the weight that they'd forgotten what it felt like to stand straight. The mountain had become their identity. "I am the one who carries," they would whisper. "This is who I am." One morning, the traveler came to a simple wooden bridge. Nothing grand, nothing remarkable, just weathered planks spanning a quiet stream. But as they approached, something extraordinary happened. They stopped. It wasn't dramatic. No lightning strike of revelation. They simply stopped. And in that stillness, they felt something they hadn't felt in years. The solid ground beneath their feet, the cool morning air against their skin, the gentle sound of water moving over stones. When did I last notice water? They wondered. The question startled them. They couldn't remember choosing to stop. Yet here they were, standing still for the first time in so long they'd forgotten how. Step by step, one day at a time. The wise ones always said this, but the traveler had never understood it until now. Standing at the edge of this ordinary bridge, they realized it meant this, right here, right now. One foot, then the other. They placed their right foot on the first plank. The wood held firm. Then the left foot joined it. The mountain on their back shifted, but it did not fall. Another step, and another, the same steps as always. Yet somehow everything felt different. Halfway across the bridge, the traveler saw it clearly. The mountain was still there, yes, but with each step, it felt less like a burden and more like cargo, something they carried, not something that carried them. "I am not my weight," they said aloud, and their voice carried across the water like a prayer. "I am the one who chooses to keep walking." On the other side of the bridge, the traveler did not set the mountain down. They didn't need to, because they finally understood what it had been teaching them all along. Their legs had grown strong from carrying it. Their heart had grown steady from the rhythm of walking. Their spirit had grown resilient from choosing, again and again, to continue. But here's the truth. Exhaustion is not your identity. The traveler had believed for so long that being tired meant being weak, that struggling meant failing. But in the morning light, they finally saw it clearly. Exhaustion was simply information. It said, "You have been working. You have been trying. You have been moving forward, even when you couldn't see the way. And this moment is proof. Not proof of perfection, not proof of arrival, but proof of something far more valuable. that change doesn't require complete transformation. It requires only this: the willingness to take the next step, even when you're tired, especially when you're tired. You weren't lucky. The traveler knew that now. Luck is just what people call it when they can't see the thousand small choices, the countless moments of choosing to continue. Lucky is what others say when they see the outcome, but not the process. No. You were honest. Honest enough to admit the weight was heavy. Honest enough to stop pretending it wasn't there. Honest enough to feel the ground beneath your feet and call it solid, even when everything else felt uncertain. You were brave. Brave enough to keep walking when walking felt impossible. Brave enough to stand still when movement had become automatic. Brave enough to question the stories you'd been telling yourself about who you are and what you can carry. And you were ready. Not ready in the way you once imagined. Fully prepared, completely healed, perfectly equipped, but ready in the only way that matters. Ready to begin again. Right here, right now, with whatever you have. The traveler kept walking that day, and the next, and the day after that. The mountain remained, but it no longer defined them. Some days it felt heavier, some days lighter. Some days they walked quickly. Other days they barely managed to crawl. But still, they walked. Because change, real change, doesn't happen in dramatic moments. It happens in the spaces between steps, in the choice to move forward, when yesterday's exhaustion is still clinging to your bones, in the breath you take before deciding, this moment, this ordinary, unremarkable moment is where you begin to become who you're meant to be. And the bridge is still there, not the wooden one in the story, but the one you're standing on now. The space between who you were and who you're becoming. The place where exhaustion turns into information, where honesty becomes courage, where readiness means being willing to be unready and begin anyway. And if you listen closely, you can hear it. Not the voice that says, wait until you're stronger, more prepared, less tired, but the older voice, the one that knows, the one that whispers, this is where you begin to change. Not tomorrow, not when the weight is lighter, not when the path is clearer. Here, now, one foot in front of the other, because the mountain you carry has been preparing you for this moment all along, and you are ready.